Today we're going to be working on both the first gen Tacoma and the third gen. We have a big trip coming up, so we need to go over the general maintenance, check a few things out, as well as get all of our tools ready for this big trip. So what I'm going to do is show you some of the stuff that I look over on the vehicles when I am prepping for a big trip like this, as well as go over some of the tools that I always carry in all my vehicles. First thing we're going to be doing on the third gen is we need to change the oil in the front diff, transfer case, and the rear diff. We already got the engine oil done, but we're at 20,000 miles and I want to change them at 20,000 just because it sees a little bit more abuse than the general stock Tacoma. So we're gonna get the fluids drained on this and change it out. We're gonna be using Lucas 7590. That's what I use in all my vehicles. I love that fluid. So we're gonna get this stuff draining, we can get that stuff replaced, and then we're gonna go over the vehicle and just do our general inspect on it, make sure all the bolts are tight, nothing is coming loose or hanging up or coming off the vehicle. All right, let's see what the oil looks like after 20,000 miles of good abuse. Yeah, definitely glad I changed it. It's only splashing a little bit though. Not really too much on the diff. Oh, there is a chunk. There is a chunk right there. See, this is why you change it before what they require, because you got to keep in mind, there's a ton of weight on this vehicle. You're pushing it harder than you would with a stock Tacoma, so it sees a little bit more abuse than a stock one, and that is why that looks like that. Well, we got the back drained. I guess it's time to see what the front has in store for us. Maybe. Any guesses? The front should be way less not good looking, because it doesn't see all the stress that the rear end does. Those smaller rear ends, I mean, you got to keep in mind it's only an 8-inch rear Toyota in this thing, and it's pretty small considering the weight of what everything is. See, this one looks a lot better. It doesn't look as shot. All right, no chunks in this one, just metal. So this is the original fluid from when it was brand new. You're obviously going to have some shavings or light coloring in there from flakes just from the break-in of these diffs. That's why I want to change it now versus when they call out changing it, just to keep good fluids in there, and it keeps your parts in check and not just getting that material re-ran through it. Keeps it all good. All right, next up is the transfer case. This one should look pretty good. They usually do as far as the fluid in it. The downside to that is I have no clue how this is gonna run. There is no hole here for draining this, so to not have this all soaked, you would have to take the cross member out. That's kind of a not great design, but we're gonna go ahead and undo it and see if it runs out of either of these two or where. I mean, there's nothing else we can do unless we want to remove it. So we're just gonna send it. That's what I think. Oh, we busted her loose. All right, place your guesses in the comments below. Where's it gonna run out of? Oh, I found the first hole. Let's hope it doesn't go that way. There it goes. There goes our mess. So as you can see, the oil in the transfer case is a lot better looking than like the rear diff or the front. That's because they usually hold a little bit more and they don't see as much stress in that area. But if you have a dirty one, that is not good. You should probably address that. RCI, if you're watching this for some reason, you should change your skid plate design so you can drain that without soaking everything in oil. Okay, so this is the fluid that we're going to be putting in it. This is Lucas 7590. It is a full synthetic gear oil. This is exactly what I use in all the builds, the first gen, the 80s, third gen. I love this fluid. So this is what we're going to be putting in the rear diff, front diff, and transfer case. So now that they're drained, we can get these things filled back up. Okay, so we have all the fluids changed in the third gen, engine oil, front diff, transfer case, and rear diff. Trans is fine, we're gonna leave that for now. Now we're working on the first gen, where there's not really anything to do on this. I just went through all the fluids a couple hundred miles ago, so everything is dialed there. What we're doing is just checking over the vehicle to make sure everything is good on it as far as like bolts and clamps. We did find a hose clamp on the transmission cooler that we need to replace. It was seeping a little bit, so we're gonna replace that so we don't have issues later. So this is not necessarily stuff that I do before every single trip, but it needed to get done, so we're doing it now. Anyways, we did a lot of stuff to this. This isn't what I do on every trip. The stuff that I do for big trips on all the vehicles is just check over it, make sure all the bolts and clamps are good, and then I usually grease the drive lines, and anything that is greasable, I'll do that before any big trip. But this is stuff we need to get taken care of because it was due mileage-wise. Other than that, the vehicles are checking out great. We don't need to do anything else as far as maintenance on them. Now we need to dive into our tools and all the gear that we pack for the trip. All right, so now that we got the maintenance done on the vehicles, we're gonna go over the gear that I carry in every single vehicle. It is a lot, but it has saved me in a pinch. So for starters, we have a kinetic rope. This is what I like to use for a rope because it has stretch to it when you're pulling people out. I also have 2 soft shackles in that, and then of course attachment points on the vehicle. We have an axe, a shovel. Back to the recovery gear, we have a snatch block. That way if you need to double up your pulling power, you can carry 2 of those if you want. But I just carry the one. I've got a set of gloves and then rain gear. You never know when you're gonna break down and it's just pouring rain or it's cold. You want to keep yourself protected out of the elements so you can fix what you need. Got ourselves a tire repair kit, rope, that comes in handy for random stuff. Over here I have a bunch of odds and ends. This is gonna be like bungee cords, ratchet straps, and then stuff for repairing electrical, as well as jumper cables. Over here we have the tool bag. So this is a little bit different than what most people do for a tool bag. Generally, you just throw in a whole bunch of tools so you can fix everything. I cater these tool bags to the vehicle. So I go through the vehicle and see what tools that I need to fix everything on it, and I get those tools and put it with this setup. So in this case, it's gonna be all metric. And then also, instead of carrying a big old heavy jack, this is what I use for a jack to change tires or fix the things I need. It is light and easy to pack. I can pack it in my tool bag. I made these little adapters so you can hook a 3/4 socket on the end and then crank it up and it will lift the vehicle as such. Socket for the axle in case you break them. We got ourselves a screwdriver kit. Don't really use that much. Then in here, we have just little stuff. This is stuff I carry for like changing the diff, or if we need to add fluid, we got a wrench for that. So that is the tool portion for this. It's fairly basic, but like I said, it's catered to this vehicle. Over here is our supplies bag. So I have everything you can imagine in here: self-tappers, grommets, plugs, valve stem stuff, fuses, clamps, everything that you would need to get you by if you need to do a repair that's kind of a temporary setup. That's the stuff that you would use there. Of course, JB Weld. And don't forget your stuff to mix it with. A ton of electrical connectors. I like to have everything I need for electrical because that's the primary thing that I've had issues with, is maybe a sensor goes bad or you need to bypass this. You have stuff to fix that. Zip ties, more tire repair kit stuff. These are hoses. If you're gonna bring fluids, you wanna make sure you have a way to fill them. And then if you need to do anything that you need to reseal stuff, you got yourself some ultra gray, more zip ties, wire. I got some wire for tying stuff up, and then wiring for electrical stuff, heat shrink. So that way, if you are doing electrical work on the trail, you can do it right, and then it's just done right there from the get-go. These things are rad. These things screw onto like 1-gallon jugs or quart jugs. Carry one of these in every vehicle. And then we have a bunch of spare parts here. Like I said, sensors are usually a hot topic on things. So I carry sensors of various ones. These are seals for the CVs in case I break one. Bolts. I carry driveline bolts in case you were to break one of those. Never had any issues, but I carry them in case. Not sure why I carry this, but this is a bolt for the crank pulley. Hopefully that never comes off. You never want to leave home without this Gorilla Tape. You gotta have your Gorilla Tape and zip ties, of course. Plug wires. This is gonna be fun putting all this back. This is a plug that you can use if you were to lose one out of your transfer case, the filling port. You can do that. Spare lug nuts for both the wheel spacers and the main lugs. Tons of belts. Since this is an auto and I have had issues in the past, well, one time, of the shifting solenoids going out, I carry those too in case you want to do a major repair on the trail. And then there's hoses for the power steering, cooler on this. Got extras of these. Fuel filter, plugs, O2 sensors, more seals. So this is everything that I carry in my supply bag. This is generally what I have set up in every vehicle, aside from the spare parts. That kind of differs vehicle to vehicle. But as far as like all the odds and ends, like clamps and stuff, I put that in every vehicle because it has saved me, it has saved my friends, so it is well worth it to carry. All right, and then for fluids, this is what I carry. You got a can of brake clean, I usually have 2. I have a bunch of trans fluid because it is a nightmare if you were to blow a line, and usually people don't carry enough of that. And then since I run the same gear fluid in my diffs, front and rear, and transfer case, I carry 7590 Lucas to fix that. I guess I do have 2 brake, yeah, bunch of brake clean, you're gonna need that. Anyways, that is mainly the gear that I carry in every single vehicle. This is a perfect setup for what I like, and over the years it's proven to work very well.